Okay, good evening. So today we'll be talking about preamble, which is preamble to the Indian Constitution. And when we'll be talking about this, we'll be seeing several aspects which are critical to it. Okay, we will not only be reading the preamble, rather we must be trying to understand what are the various concepts that are mentioned over there. And apart from this, we will try to understand that what is the importance of preamble, why is it so important to understand it, and what is the vision with which our constitution was written. Because preamble is nothing but a vision to our constitution, or let's say it was the vision with which our constitution makers drafted our constitution with a hope that our country over time, so let's say in a decade, in a 2 decade or so, achieves the targets or philosophical goals that have been set up in the Constitution of India. Okay, and it is reflected in the preamble of our Indian Constitution. Right. So we'll be talking about that. So let us start this discussion. Okay. So you can see here that here we have the preamble on your right hand side. The document that you see, the image that you see is taken from the original constitution that we have. Okay. So you must see that how well it is drafted. Okay. And it is, let's say, written in a very good calligraphy and those things. Now those things are the factual things. And I will urge you people to find out the name of the person who designed it. Okay, that is also important just for the purpose of GK. So just go and find it out, right? Okay, so let's start. Now, why is preamble important? Okay, now before I move ahead, there is one more thing that we need to discuss about, that this topic is related to the constitutionalism. Okay, so in this topic we must talk about constitutionalism also. And when we were talking about constitutionalism, there were certain aspects that we talked about, that what constitutionalism is. Okay, what is a rule of law and those things, right? We have already talked about this. So prior to, if you people haven't attended that class, okay, I will provide the link in the description when this lecture goes to YouTube. Okay, you can just refer to that. Okay, so you must go and visit that particular section, that particular lecture that deals with constitutionalism, to understand it better. But just to give you a recap, what is constitutionalism? Constitutionalism deals with that how rule of law is implemented. So there are several elements in constitutionalism, but the basic element that we saw was that ultimately the rule was of not of any general people. It was not an arbitrary rule, but it was in reality rule of law, rule of the laws set up by the constitution, right? So everything is taking place as per the constitution. When such a setup is let's say installed in a society or in a political setup or polity, we have establishment of constitutionalism. And preamble is a reflection that what is there in the constitution. So we can say in other words that preamble is telling us that what is there in the constitution in a nutshell. Now, what is there in the constitution? As we have talked in the previous class, that what polity concerns with is that what kind of social setups should be there and how government will be interacting with these social institutions or setups. Apart from that, how government itself will be set up, will be constituted. All those things are mentioned in the constitution. Apart from this, the underlying principle is the philosophy that is behind any constitution or any draft. So let's say when you are reading constitution, you are reading part 3. Let's say part 3 deals with what are the fundamental rights of an individual. Now, when you are reading fundamental rights of the individual, you must see, or you must have gone through that you have certain rights. Let's say rights to freedom of religion, okay, or general freedom in sense. You have several other rights, right to equality, right to justice, and those things, right? So these philosophies, okay, which are there enshrined in there. Let's say when we talk about rights, okay, there is a philosophy. What is the philosophy? That each and every person who is there in Indian setup should have certain rights. So this belongs a philosophy that is there in the constitution. Apart from that, what kind of rights? So constitution itself moves on to say that everyone should have justice, should have liberty, and those things. So these things that we are talking about in the constitution itself are also reflected here and are the part of constitutional philosophy, right? Therefore, what preamble reflects is that what is there as part of constitutional philosophy. Apart from this particular document, which is preamble, is also a document which serves as the guide for our, let's say, politicians, for our political institutions, and overall for our society. And therefore, it has been termed as key to the mind of constitution makers, right? So preamble basically is now termed as key to the mind of constitution makers, right? So these are the things that we will see. Now here is the draft of the preamble. So I will just read it for you people, and then there are certain things that you can like figure out from this document. So you can see that there are certain words which are there in bold, right? We have the people of India, which is there in bold, and then we have certain words, right? So these letters, or these words which are there in bold are quite important, okay, and therefore they are in bold, of course, and they form the part of our constitutional philosophy. So complete preamble is important, but I will explain these words which are there in the bold, okay, and then we will move on. Okay, so let me just read it out. So when I will be reading, you just need to pay attention to these bold words also with a special underlined attention, right? So it's written, we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thoughts, expression, belief, faith, worship, equality of status, of opportunity, and to promote among all fraternity, assuring dignity of the individuals and unity of the nation. In our Constituent Assembly, this 26th day of November 1949, do hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution. Right. So I will just underline those parts which are quite important for our for this discussion. Right. So we have this particular term, we, the people of India. This is quite important. Having solemnly resolved to constitute India into sovereign, democratic republic, and to secure to all its citizens justice, liberty, equality, fraternity. Right. Now, those of you who are already preparing for UPSC must have known that there is a word that is missing over here, right? So you must be observant enough to find out that the word secularism is missing over here. So these were the words that were added later on. So when I will be discussing about them. I have prepared them in the slide, but this copy of the image that we have over here is the older copy of preamble, and therefore it is not mentioned over here. Right. Apart from this, you will find out that justice, when we talk about justice, it is of certain kinds: social, economic, and political. When we talk about liberty, it is of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and then fraternity. And then we have one important word which is not in bold over here, which is dignity of the individual and unity of the nation. However, these are quite important. Okay, apart from these things, which are the basic part, or which are setting the target for our political systems, okay, there are certain other things which are mentioned over here. You will find out that a date is mentioned, November 1949, which is 26th November 1949, right? Now there is one more, or let's say we have other words: hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves this Constitution, right? So I will come to these later on. However, I will like to pick up these three words, which are adopt, then we have enact, and then to give to ourselves, right? So I will just discuss about these, okay, right now, and then I will omit, I will come to other discussion later on. So I have prepared a table. We will be moving to that table, and then we will talk about that. Okay, just give me a minute. So if you will find out what we are focusing on here right today, okay, or right now, is this: hereby adopt, enact, and give to ourselves. So what are the things that we are talking to adopt, enact, or to give to ourselves, right? So you will find out that this particular term is in a sequence. So first you adopt a philosophy, then you enact it, and then you give it to yourself, right? So let's pick up these words. Why are they important, right? So if you will find out why are they important, adopt, enact, and give to ourselves, the very first term adopt means that when you adopt something, you adopt a philosophy. Let's say that we decided that, let's say you are in your home, and in your home you are family of 10 people, and then it was decided that now on, whenever some decision is to be taken, there will be a meeting, and in this meeting, you people will come to let's say will come to the conclusion that what to decide and what how to move ahead. And then you decided that out of these 10 people, as two people are, or two of the members are kids, let's say they are quite small, they won't be able to participate in this discussion, and therefore they will be kept apart. Now this is a hypothetical situation. Now you will find out that this particular idea of having yourself uh, or or of deciding the things over the table is an idea, right? So it is just an idea, and then you came up with an idea. So when you came up with the idea, and when all of the people in your house, okay, or all the members in the house adopted it, so basically you adopted an ideology. You accepted that we will follow certain procedures, or we will follow the democratic principles, right? So when we are seeing कि what you are doing, okay, अगर घर में 10 लोग हैं and you people are deciding कि each and every member will having their say, then you are adopting the philosophy of equality, or let's say equal participation in decision making, right? So this is the first step, which is adoption of an ideology, right? So therefore, when you write something, or when the constitution was written, certain ideologies were adopted by the Constituent Assembly, and it was decided that okay, each and everyone in the country should have right to freely vote, okay. And then let's say other provisions. So we have certain provisions, all of them were first adopted. Now when you adopt a philosophy, when you adopt a principle that we will provide, let's say in your example, when you have member of 10 people, okay, अगर 10 लोगों का मेंबर है, तो वहां पर क्या हो रहा है, हमने क्या बोला कि these 10 people will be giving their participation. Now to make this effective, you will have to plan something. This is your thought, or this is the consensus that members of your family have come up, that out of these 10 people, 8 will be participating. However, to give it effect, to make it effective, you will have to make certain rules, right? So you will make certain rules that we will sit every day at 8, or let's say we will sit at every Sunday, or certain things. So you will come up with a rule that all the members will sit up around, let's say, dining table or a hall, okay, and the agenda for that meeting will be kept. And then certain people will start, and then at the end you will ask to vote, okay. So if these things are prepared, so first, what was the first step? You adopted that, okay, you will make your, let's say, members, or you will provide all the members in your family democratic rights or their freedom to decide something. Then you moved ahead and framed certain rules, right? So this framing of rules is known as inaction, right? And therefore we have this particular term over here which highlights it, which is inaction, right? So what you do is you enact something. Now when you enact something, what you are doing is you are writing the articles. So when we talk in terms of constitution, what are we enacting? We are enacting acts, okay, or we are enacting we are enacting articles. So our constitution makers wrote down articles, and what were these articles? These articles were the basis of the rules, okay. So let's say when we talk about the election of president, so how election of president will be conducted, okay, how he will be elected, how his votes will be counted, what will be his terms, and those things were enacted. This means they were written down in detailed structure in the constitution, right? So the first step that our constitution makers or the Constituent Assembly did was to adopt a philosophy. Then they wrote it down in terms of constitution and in terms of articles. This was inaction. And when this process was complete, when the complete adoption of the philosophies and the inaction of articles was completed, the Constituent Assembly gave it to themselves, and in short, it was implemented throughout the country, right? So what we do is you adopt a philosophy, then you enact certain rules to implement it, and then you implement that. So actual implementation is the final stage, right? And when was this final stage done? It was on 6th day of November, right? So these are the things which are mentioned in this particular article, right? So we have already talked about this. I do hope that up till here everything is fine. Okay, I'm just thinking in that manner, right? So if everything is fine, let's move ahead. Okay. Now, in this part, what we are going to discuss is that what are, just give me a minute. So what are the parts of constitution? You will find out that the very first um, word that we had in constitution was we the people of India, right? So one can ask that what is the source of power, or from whom the constitution is getting its power, right? So preamble is making it clear that the source of power to Indian constitution is ultimately relying with the people of India, and therefore we have the term we the people of India. So the very term that we had in the previous slide, which was we the people of India, was indicating that was indicating that our constitution makers have decided to make it, or our constitution makers or our constituent assembly was elected, number one. And as it was elected, each and every Indian was somehow responsible to elect these persons in the constituent assembly. And ultimately it was not a process, or the framing of constitution was not just a process where few lawmakers sat down. Rather it was much detailed process, including the debates in the constituent assembly and the general vote in the constituent assembly, right? So this was there. Then you have the date of implementation, which we have seen. It was, let's say, given to ourselves on 26th November 1949. But just remember one thing, that actual constitution came into force on 26th of January 1950. And why it was so? It was because of the Lahore session of Congress in 1930. Okay, on 26th January, when they adopted the resolution of Poon Swaraj, or complete independence, right, on the river banks of Ravi. Okay, so these are the parts. So the first part indicates give you the detail, the source of power, and ultimately it talks about adoption, inaction, and implementation. And then you have the date of implementation, when it is implemented, right? Now you have certain, there was a frame, there was a small picture, okay, or there were keywords. These keywords were talking about the features of the state, and then what kind of rights will the citizens have, okay. And therefore we can say that ultimately constitution makers, after providing such things, drafted a document which is going to serve as our document in the long run, right? So this is something that we talked about. Now let me again move to the slide now, okay, and then we will talk about that what is the real meaning. So let's move to this part. Now this is quite critical, and here I will ask your attention. Okay, now this complete document that we talked about has been converted into the form of the table. And here I have mentioned the important concepts that are there. So we have we the people of India, okay, which is indicating the source of power, that what is the ultimate source of power to the constitution. Okay, now what we have decided. So we have decided to establish and to provide its citizen. There are two things. To establish what? To establish a polity, to establish a political system, or to establish a political institution or political setup, right? So basically we are establishing a kind of state. Now again you need to move back to yesterday's class and then recall what a state was. A state was just an entity, okay, which needed to meet basic three criteria, right? What were these three criteria? Fixed territory, fixed population, and a government setup, right? Now I have pointed it out in that particular class that state, the basic definition of state is only these things. However, state can have much more features than mentioned in these 3 points, right? And therefore, after we have an Indian territory, okay, and after we have certain population and government setup, what kind of government setup will be set up, okay, or what will be the powers of the government, what kind of economic setup will be there. All of these things are outlined in preamble over here, or in constitution. It is outlined in the constitution itself. Now it is mentioned in the preamble also. And therefore we see that the features of the state, which is sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. These are the 5 features of Indian state. It is mentioned in the preamble. Okay, so here it is. So it is mentioned in the preamble itself. Okay. Next, what we will see is, just give me a minute. Okay, now this part, okay, we will move to the next slide also, and this will complete this slide. Just give me a minute. Let me bring that particular complete slide. It is not complete, and therefore it is not visible completely. Right. So this is the second part. So you will see that this part, socialist, secular, democratic, republic. Okay. Fine. So in this part, you will see कि ये जो आपका part है, to establish. So you are establishing a state which is having certain features, right? What are these features? You have sovereign, then socialist, secular. Okay, these are 3 features. Then you have other features which include just give me a minute, which include to have a social, secular, and democratic republic. Somehow it is misbehaving today, right? So just pardon me for this. I have discussed this earlier that somehow it is not working today well. Okay, anyways, so what we are seeing is कि ये जो आपका complete picture है वो क्या बोल रहा है कि you should have so we the people of India establish or we are trying to establish a state which should have following features. What are these features? You should have a state which should be sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic and republic. And इसके अलावा क्या बोल रहे हैं कि citizens के पास कुछ चीजें होनी चाहिए. So citizens should have certain things. What are these things? You should have justice, liberty and equality. Now justice is social, economic and political. You have liberty of thought, of expression, of faith, belief. Okay, and then equality of status and of opportunity. लेकिन ये सब हम लोग कर क्यों रहे हैं? और what is the aim of having it? Right? So it is saying कि जैसे ही लोगों के पास, okay, what it is saying कि अगर आपका जो सोसाइटी है, okay, या फिर इंडियन सेटअप है, अगर उसमें if in the setup, if the complete setup is such कि वो democratic है, socialist है, secular है, republic है, okay, so when all of these things are ensured, these things will ensure कि लोगों के पास justice उनको मिल रही है, liberty उनको मिल रही है और equality उनको मिल रहा है, right? So justice, liberty and equality. Justice कैसा? Social, economic and political. Liberty कैसी? Of thought, of expression, of belief, of faith and of worship. और equality कैसी? Of opportunity and of status, right? इससे क्या होगा? अगर ये सारी चीजें मिल जाएं, now if all of these things are provided to the citizens, then you will find out that people will have a kind of fraternity among themselves. उनके बीच में एक भाईचारा आ जाएगा. अगर ये नहीं हुआ, let's say कि some of the people are denied justice, okay, then this feeling will not be there. Or let's say if equality is not there among the people of India, then they will not feel as if they are members of the same society, and therefore they will not cooperate. And as they will not cooperate, it will disrupt the national integrity and unity. And therefore, the ultimate aim of the constitution or the dream of our constitution makers was to establish a society which is just, that is, everyone is having justice, okay, which is also providing liberty of several things, or let's say which is maximizing the liberty, and in doing so is also ensuring that people are treated equally and with equality. When all of these is achieved, the ultimate aim is to create a feeling of fraternity between the members of India or between Indians. Unless and until this is not there, there will be a kind of tussle that will be going on between, let's say, several sections of the society, and which will not be good ultimately. And therefore, what we see is this, that the kind of setup that our, let's say, constitution makers tried to establish or set up was this, that state should have certain features. What are these? Number one, it should be sovereign means you should have the ability to decide in your decisions, or you should have ability to freely decide certain things or certain issues. So let's say, do we have this ability? So yes, we do have this ability. Now this is something that we are talking about, or we have talked, right? So you have sovereignty. Then sovereignty can be of two kinds. It can be of internal and external. We will talk about sovereignty in detail. So we will also talk about what socialism is, what capitalism is, and those things. Okay. However, what are the features that we need to understand? It should be sovereign, it should be socialist, it should be democratic, it should be republic, and of course secular, right? So that's all for today. Okay. In next class, in tomorrow's class, we will try to understand what sovereignty is, okay, and what are the threats to it, what secularism is, what are the threats to it, what communism is, and those things, right? So we'll be talking about these things in detail in the next class, right? And therefore, I'm just ending this class right now. So the reason is I have prepared it, so we could have discussed a bit more, but somehow it is not responding, and I'm not able to, let's say, show you the complete picture. And therefore, I will end this session right now, today, over here. We will continue with this discussion tomorrow, and I will just give a recap of the things that we studied today. So I will give you this as the notes. So you can do one thing, that once this is uploaded on our, let's say, YouTube channel, find out the document that is over here, and in that, find out the complete chart, try to understand it. And if you have any doubts, you can just text me or you can comment over there, and then I will give you the explanation in the, let's say, YouTube link that you will be getting on our channel, right? और जो भी ये डॉक्यूमेंट है, जो रिलेटेड डॉक्यूमेंट है, आई विल अपलोड इट देयर, आप वहां से उसको डाउनलोड कर लीजिए, सो दैट यू कैन हैव एक्सेस टू इट लेटर ऑन, ओके। और जो लेट्स से जो आपका डायग्राम ढंग से प्रेजेंट नहीं हो रहा है, वो वहां आपको ढंग से दिख जाएगा, इट विल बी कंप्लीटली विजिबल। सो जस्ट find it there in the description below the video, right? So let me end this session. Okay, we have one question. Yeah, any questions from anyone? Anyone? Okay, so we have someone with the name DC5V. Can you please send me your name? Okay, so I'm going to end this session right now. Okay, see you tomorrow at the same time at 7. Okay, have a nice day. I'm going to end this session. Any questions so far? कोई question आप लोग के पास? From anyone? कोई question है तो आप पूछ सकते हैं. Okay, so that tomorrow. Okay, चलो फिर, have a nice day. See you tomorrow at the same time at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Okay, good day.